Yeah, and continuing on to talk to us more about cosmic rays and how the cosmic rays and galactic sources, we have Colleen Dubos. Yeah, and yeah, I'll give you.
Let me try to. Sorry for the noise. Okay, perfect. No, not perfect. See? Okay, nice. Okay, I just check how it works. Perfect, because this is the first time for me. Nice. Okay, great. So, hello everyone. So I'm Colleen. I am in my third year of PhD at IGC Lab in Paris-Saclay. So today I will continue on the subject of cosmic rays, but more specifically the galactic cosmic rays. So let's go. So you have already seen this picture in this conference, but I will more focus on the cosmic rays part of this picture, which is here, and also the gamma rays. I will explain why after. So a main question that we have on the cosmic rays today is what is the origin of galactic cosmic rays, among others. So as you probably know, the accelerations of cosmic rays can be induced by violent phenomena in our universe, like aging for extragalactic sources, as we have seen a lot during this conference. But in our galaxy, we have also powerful accelerators like supernova remnants, pulsars, stellar cluster. The thing is that the acceleration of cosmic rays is complicated to look for the origin because these cosmic rays are deviated in our galaxy by the galactic magnetic fields. So this is a lot of difficulties to just check the origin. So what we can to do is to look for the gamma rays in order to point back the violent phenomena in our galaxy. So one thing that we can check and look for is the famous radiative processes that you probably know, like, for example, an hadronic process, which is the pion decay, the neutral pion decay P0, which is generated between the collision with the cosmic rays with the surrounding matter around the accelerators. This P0 disintegrates into two gamma rays very fastly after this collision. And these gamma rays can be measured on Earth through experiments. But we have also other radiative models, as you know, like leptonic models, which consider the acceleration of electrons, like synchrotron, Bremsstrahlung, inverse quantum for high energy. And we will check this just after. Okay, so for now, just focus on the cosmic ray, just for the context of this subject. So you have already seen the cosmic ray spectrum in the last presentation, so I will not enter into details. But what is interested for this study is around the Ni region, so around 1 peta-electron volt. So you can see here the all-particle spectrum, where we can see the different contributions of nuclei, like light particles like protons, for example, here, and heavy particles like iron. And what we can see from the measurements of these nuclei is that around the Ni region, we have more iron nuclei than proton nuclei. And so this is the motivation of this study, to check how heavy particles contribute in the cosmic rays. And this is really difficult, as we have seen with Lorenzo just before, And we will check this around the knee region, so for pevatrons, the famous sources which can accelerate cosmic rays up to peta-electron volts. The pevatron candidates in our galaxy are, among others, the supernova remnants. And these presentations will focus on 2 supernova remnants. So to study these SNRs, we will focus now on gamma rays. Okay. So you have here the gamma rays profile of 2 SNRs, which are RX G1713 on the right and on the left, OC G2227. So what we have did in our last paper is to perform multi-wavelength analysis on the spectrum of these 2 SNRs. You have here the results of this multi-wavelength analysis, where we have performed leptohadronic scenarios, that is to say, considering pion decay, Bremsstrahlung, inverse quantum, etc., processes, radiative processes. The observations are in black point. What we have extracted from this analysis is that for these 2 sources, we have a dominant hadronic contributions at the highest energies of the spectrum, that is to say, the famous pion decay processes. This is why we will more focus on this process for the following presentation. And so that's it. So we have extracted the parameters from the multi-wavelength analysis, which consider pion decay process. And we have performed other modeling, considering the photon flux emitting from the cosmic ray distributions. So you have here the equation of this photon flux, if it is work, yes. So this photon flux is a bit particular because you can see here that we have other parameters which appears, like for example, the F, sigma, Z, A. So these parameters has been implemented to consider the contribution of heavy cosmic rays. So for example, Z and A are the charge and the atomic number of the cosmic rays. Sigma is the cross sections which appears when the cosmic rays interact with the matter in our galaxy. And F here is in fact related to the fraction of the cosmic ray abundances to the compositions of the cosmic rays. So here you have a plot which show the compositions of the cosmic rays considering different elements from protons to iron nuclei. You have already seen this kind of plot, specifically for the solar system elements in black here, and also for the cosmic rays accelerated around 1 giga-electron volt here. So what we can analyze from this is that heavier nuclei have a subabundance compared to light nuclei. However, if we check the different models and measurements from literature which included accelerations of cosmic rays at 1 peta-electron volt, for example, which is in red here, we can see clearly that the abundances of heavy nuclei are more comparable to light nuclei. Also, if we consider now directly the nature of the source which accelerate cosmic rays, for example, a type 2 supernova in our galaxy, we can see also that the heavy nuclei are more preponderant here compared to other model of cosmic rays. And so these 2 cases are really interesting for our study because we are studying co-collapse supernova and we are checking an accelerations for pevatrons. So for the following, we will check for these 2 compositions specifically. And so I come back to the plot that I showed just before to explain a little bit more. And you have here for the spectrum of RX and OC with the data observations in dot points and the different models that we want to analyze. That is to say, the cosmic ray, a photon flux from the proton distribution here in pink, and photon flux from heavy elements. We have considered proton plus CNO cosmic rays here in orange and in red with the 2 compositions which are really interested for this study. Same for OC, and we will check after what we can do for this. So This morning, Elena talked about a bit of CTAO, the next generations of ground-based telescopes, which detect gamma rays through the air shower by the incoming gamma ray in our atmosphere. And so what we want to do is to check the sensitivity of CTAO to heavy cosmic rays. So how to do that? Simply by simulating the flux of the sources that we want to study with CTAO. So to perform this kind of simulations, we have to look for the IRF of CTAO, which is simply Monte Carlo simulations of the gamma ray shower, which is here. We have to put some parameters like zenith angle, observation time, and to select the site where we want to have the simulations. So in CTAO, we have the south site in Chile, in the north site in Canary Islands here. We have to consider the background also, of course. And finally, what it is interested here is what kind of relative models we want to simulate. And so, as I said just before, what we want to know is to check the pion decay considering cosmic rays of protons only and also of CNO, and check also for ion, why not, with the two types of compositions that we have an interest, like the 1PeV and the type 2 supernova. Okay, so let's go for the results. Thanks. So now we want, once the simulations has been performed, we can fit the CTO simulated data and check for if CTO could distinguish between the different models that we want to check. So for this, we have to fit the data and perform some statistical tests. Here, a local likelihood test, simply. So you have, firstly, these results with the source RxG1713, the simulations in dot here from CTAO, and we want to compare if cosmic rays are composed of protons only or proton plus CNO with the type 2 supernova, for example here. Same here, but with the other composition at 1 peta-electron volts. And what the local likelihood test tells us is that we have more than 5 sigma of signification. That is to say that CTAO could distinguish between these two models. Okay, let's go now for OAK to check if we have the same kind of results. This is the case, even if the delta TS is a bit lower, and this is justified by the fact that OAK has a lower flux, in fact, compared to RX. So this is logical, but that works also. CTO could distinguish between these two models each time. Okay, let's go now for the iron nuclei to check if it is also the same cases. You have here for RX and here for OAK. And same, we have a local likelihood test, which is concluent. And so this leads us to my conclusion. Just to resume why we have studied the cosmic rays with CTAO. Firstly, we can, with CTAO through gamma rays, pinpoint the cosmic ray source, which is not really easy when we consider the cosmic ray detectors directly. Now, what will CTAO bring to the knowledge of cosmic rays? So firstly, CTAO will increase the sensitivity to the spectral shape of gamma rays, of course, because it is really sensitive. And moreover, which is more interested, is that if we perform a multi-wavelength analysis before, we could distinguish protons from heavy cosmic rays and so have some clues about their origin and their compositions, which is really important to know more on the sources which can accelerate this kind of cosmic rays. And that's it for the moment. If you are a little bit curious, you can check this work in our paper, which has been published recently in JCAP. And just a note is that in this paper, we have also checked another origin of cosmic rays, which are more related to different acceleration scenarios. And we have compared these two origins. And that's it. So thank you very much.
Okay, thanks a lot. Any questions? I got a question then. So naive question. Do you expect the same kinds of supernova remnants to have the same kind of Cosmic ray composition?
Like, well, what we have studied here. Here, okay. Because this supernova remnants that we have today is only core collapse supernova for this case. But we have also type 1a, for example. I didn't study these compositions because we have initially studied OK and RX for the dominant hadronic contribution reasons. So these two sources are core collapse. This is why I'm really more focused on the type 2. But of course, I think type 1a would be a nice also analysis to check if we have the same kind of results or not. But I think, I don't know, I need to check if theoretically we can have the same kind of abundances of heavy elements which appears into type 1a. I'm not sure, but it is possible. Thanks.
We have time for more questions.
Thank you. I may have missed the point, but during the observation, you may have variability also. I mean, we don't know. So how it will have impact on the spectrum that you fit after that? If you have strong variability, are you sure that you will be able to discriminate between the different model or not? Did you check that?
No, I don't check that, but it's an interesting question. I
don't know which kind of variability we can expect.
Yes, because there are supernova remnants, so I don't know. But I will check this. I think it is important also question.
We have time for one more question if anyone has one.
I think I just missed it, but I mean, how do you deal with the degeneracy? You show that you can distinguish between the two, you know, cosmic ray composition models, but there are all these, you know, there are all these other factors, magnetic fields that will all impact your source. So I just don't understand what's the key signature that tells you it's from light or from heavy cosmic rays, so that you can disentangle it from everything else that is ongoing and you don't know.
Okay, so for example, for parameters for magnetic fields, which are really important also, we have this kind of parameters in other radiative models, like synchrotron, for example, not in pion decay. So here we have resumed this analysis to the pion decay. This is why we don't analyze this kind of parameters. But if we implement the inverse Compton, for example, inside this analysis, we have the same kind of results. For example, I don't know if it is answer to your questions, but I think I have a backup here. If I consider electrons, where we can have some magnetic fields, for example, through the inverse Compton process here, we can see that we have exactly the same kind of results. So this magnetic field, for example, is always fixed by the multivariance analysis performed before. So this is the parameter fixed in any cases. So yes.
All right, thanks a lot. I think we are out of time for the question round, but let's thank Colleen again.